One.
All right, welcome to Facebook Live. Ricardo, Lecompte, Doug Mouton. We're going to talk a little bit about the Saints and the Rams getting ready for Sunday. The game's on Channel 4. It's a 3:25 national game. All right, first thing that happened Wednesday, Ricardo, that was obviously significant. The injury report comes out. Marshawn Lattimore did not practice, and Ken Crawley did not practice with an abdomen injury, missing both starting corners. You see why they signed two corners, and that's definitely concerning, right?
It is concerning, especially with a Rams offense that has done very well this year in terms of the pass game. Jared Goff, who's in his second year, has just leaps and bounds where he was in his rookie year. And then, of course, you have that combination with Todd Gurley. With Goff and those weapons with Robert Woods, with Sammy Watkins, who they got from the Bills in that midseason trade, and Tavon Austin, they've got so many weapons on the outside that you need those corners there to at least put those guys in check. And if the Saints do not have a healthy secondary going into the game Sunday, they could be in trouble.
Yeah, no question about it. Now, the one thing, Robert Woods, who's been their home run hitter, he's their leading receiver. Certainly, from a yard standpoint, he's got 200 more than anybody else on the team. Robert Woods didn't practice today either, which is not a bad thing. The Saints have gotten some lucky breaks with, like, Aaron Rodgers and some others. Robert Woods not playing would not be a bad thing, especially if you don't have Lattimore and Crawley. Robert Woods didn't practice today, but to me, I don't think Lattimore's playing this week. That's what I get. And you sort of got the same feeling, right?
I get that same feeling because just when you tweak an ankle like that, you try to see him make a go at it in the second half, and he just couldn't do it. Those kind of injuries, you're not going to be able to bounce back in a couple of days. I mean, it's one of those kind of injuries with that ankle where I can see him sitting out maybe a couple of weeks. And from all intents and purposes, just the vibe I got in the locker room today, it doesn't look like he's playing Sunday.
No, and I think a couple of things go with that. Well, the back half of that is, I think, watch Crawley on the injury report Thursday and Friday. Obviously, he's got to be practicing on Friday to be playing. And watch Robert Woods on the injury report, too, the next couple of days, because he's big. But with Lattimore, one thing Kenny Ricardo said today, which was super interesting, was that he was 90% last week, meaning if this was a playoff game or a game to get to the playoffs, he would have been out there playing. The Saints understand there's going to be a stretch run and that they need guys in January. So they rested Vaccaro. He said he's 105% ready now, which is mathematically impossible. 100 is the most you can be. But anyway, so Kenny Vaccaro will be back, but you saw them being cautious with Vaccaro. Given that, my guess is they would do the same thing with Lattimore. No matter the importance of the game, you're 8-2. You bought yourself a mulligan or two, right?
Yeah, that's the beauty of getting into this 8-game win streak and being at 8-2, where you can afford to have those guys where, listen, we don't need you this week. Go ahead and sit out. Go ahead and get healthy. And then down the stretch run, that's where ultimately you want them. And that's a luxury that the Saints have because they're out to such a lead in the NFC. Now, not in the NFC South because the Panthers are chasing them as well. So it's more important. I could see it where you don't necessarily need for the Rams, but you need him next week, especially when they play the Panthers.
Yeah, no question about it. And for the Panthers, too, you've already beaten them once, so if you can beat them a second time, that would put you up 2, and in effect, you'd be up 3 games. And at that point in the season, that you could take care of the Panthers yourself. You rest you guys, you get them better. A.J. Klein could play. He thinks he might. He was limited today. Getting him back would be good. And then I guess the one thing we're going to have to watch this week, it'll be the first time without Alex Okafor for a whole game. So who plays that spot? Who plays it well? We were talking in the office about, do the Saints go out and get somebody? They didn't, and we thought they wouldn't either because you've got Al-Quadin Muhammad, who's a guy who hasn't played much, hadn't been a spot for him, and he's a guy who's shown promise, but you figure Trey Hendrickson's going to get first shot at the spot, Holy Kakaha could get some reps, and then you've got Muhammad behind him. So you do have some options there, even though Okafor was having a terrific year, and it's going to be a hit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And Cam Jordan even said with Trey, he's like, listen, Trey can just jump in there. He already knows what he's doing. So it's not like, with Okafor's production, yes, you missed that. But it's not like the guys behind him haven't had game reps and haven't experienced what they need to do. So Cam's like, we're fine. I think we're going to be fine in terms of just the pass rush that they're going to have.
Yeah, no question about it. Then on the other side of the ball, Mark Ingram's the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. And really, to me, that is not the best choice just because Ingram did most of his damage in overtime. I mean, look, this was Drew Brees leading a comeback. Ingram only had 11 carries. Now, look, these were 11 terrific carries. Don't get me wrong. Ingram was terrific when he got the ball, but he had 11 carries. Drew Brees was 12 for 12 on those 2 touchdown drives where the Saints were able to tie it back up. To me, this was vintage Brees. They haven't needed him all year. You know it's in the back pocket that Drew Brees can pull out one of these things whenever he needs to. For the first time this year, they needed him to, and you know what? 12 for 12, he was effortless and got it done.
What a difference for these Saints teams that you've seen the last few years where it's like that offense is so dependent on Drew Brees making plays, running that offense. And this is the first year that you've seen it where it's like he's got a running game to go with that. And it's such a huge thing, especially for the Saints, because you've got balance, and they've preached that all year. Having balance in the running game, having balance in the pass game with both sides, and you don't have to have Drew Brees go out there, throw 40 times, throw for 400 yards to get victories. You can hand it off. You can have Drew Brees sit there, complete 20 passes or whatever and just do his thing. And then when you need him in spots like that fourth quarter where you're down 15 with 6 minutes to go, and you go, all right, let's jump on Drew Brees' back, get us in this, and you can do that. That's a great thing to have where you have the balance, but when you need it, you have an elite future Hall of Fame quarterback that can lead you down drives. That's what makes that offense so potent this year. That hasn't been in the last couple of years.
Yeah, no question about it. Sam, we have any questions coming in on Facebook?
No major questions yet.
No
I was wondering.
questions.
Okay, but we have a question.
No questions. That's cool.
All right, but you have a question. Sam.
I
What's
do.
up?
We're talking a lot. Most of the names you guys have been saying are very young players for the Saints. And I'm wondering, I know everybody's like, oh, we shouldn't talk about playoffs, we shouldn't talk about Super Bowl, so I'm sure nobody wants to talk about next season either. But a lot of the best parts of the Saints team are really young. Is this going to be kind of a new norm for the Saints for the next couple of years?
Yeah, no question. Look,
Yes.
no question about it. You put a lot of good pieces together. Now, look, let me say this right off the bat. Drew Brees is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. He says don't worry about it. The Saints say don't worry about it. But you know what? Until he signs a contract, I would choose to worry about it. Because to me, he is he's the piston that makes it all run. And without Brees, nothing works on offense. And without Brees, it's a whole different team. So, yes, you can. If you can lock up Drew Brees, which certainly the indications are that you can, but you've gotten younger and better on the offensive line. Ryan Ramczyk with Armstead. I mean, you've got some young, terrific pieces. Andres Pete's had a good year. Had his best game this year last week. Got some good pieces on the offensive line. You got Mike Thomas. You got Kamara. You really have put some pieces in place. And boy, it's funny. 3 straight 7 and 9s, and it's looking like the end of a run, then one great draft, and it's looking like you can kickstart a new run with the big question mark being at quarterback.
Isn't that just funny that you just miss, and you've seen this last few years, the Saints have missed on drafts.
Yeah, so bad.
And that's why you've struggled.
Right,
you
right.
make one draft class where you get as much production as you have from this draft class, and you see it's an exponential difference between the Saints. And it's always that. It's you draft well and have a franchise quarterback in there. Isn't that seems to be the formula all the time for all these great NFL teams?
Yeah.
Is that you have that formula. Well, the Saints have hit on it this year. So expect those young guys. And imagine if they hit next year. We'll look ahead next year. If they hit on their draft class next year.
Yeah.
I mean, and with Drew Brees coming back, which he has said, we have talked and we've asked him that question before. Hey, your contract, are you going to come back? It's like, don't worry, I've been asked that question. I'm not going to talk about it to the whatever. But it's that look where he's like, listen, he wants to stay. Like, the feeling I get is he wants to stay.
And my feeling is, looking at him, looking at what Tom Brady has done, looking at the way nutrition and workout regimens are, I don't see any reason he can't do what he's doing now for at least 2 or 3 more years. Agreed?
Yeah, agreed. It's a different game from what most people played in.
This is not Johnny Unitas' time.
We're like, you're done by the age of 30.
Right.
There's such longevity now in all these careers because of the advances in science and advances in nutrition.
And the advances of how these guys take care of themselves.
That and their DNA is just different. They're just different dudes. Just different dudes.
They're just different dudes. All right, for Ricardo, Lecompte, Doug Mouton, we're going to do this every Wednesday from now to the end of the season. We're going to do it around 7, 7:30, something like that. We're going to do a Facebook Live. Wednesday's the day to do it because when you start getting some injury updates, start to get some notes. If you have any questions, send them in. Thanks for watching us on Facebook Live. Ricardo will have a full game preview coming up on Eyewitness News at 10. We'll see you later.